Hi and welcome back to What's on Young Minds. Audrey here. And on this episode, I'm handing the mic over to some brilliant voices from the Young Minds community to talk about something that affects so many young people, exam stress. You'll hear from our amazing activists Matty and Dinah, as well as Young Minds Ambassador Alfie Watts, who you might know from BBC's Race Across the World. This episode is part of our Missing the Mark campaign, where we're calling on the government to scrap SATs and reform our exam system so it's fairer and better for young people's mental health. Let's get into it.
So to kick things off, it'd be great to know if you guys have got any coping mechanisms that have got you through exams. I know it's exam season as we're talking about this now. Is there anything that helps you use?
I think it's just really, really important when you're in exam season to just try and continue living the same life that you do outside of exam season. I think a lot of people basically think that for sort of a month and a half you need to go into hiding and have your head in a book. There is only a certain amount of information consumption that a human being can do anyway, and whether you're revising or not, you still need food, you still need sun, you still need to be outside, you still need exercise. It's not like the rest of the world stops when the exams do. And I know that the pressure that's on young people makes people think that that's the case, but I think just making sure that you still go and play football, or you still go out for a run, or still read your books and things like that, I think it's about having that balance.
I very much agree, because we were talking before and you were saying that you sat, was it 27 GCSE papers?
27 GCSEs.
27 exams in 5-6 weeks, something like that?
Yeah, so it's 14th of May to 14th of June. They basically run for a month. And that's not obviously considering that wedged in between that is the half term, which is basically just commonly renowned as an opportunity for people to just do nothing but read. 27 papers, other things they've kind of... All of which are an hour and a half at least, and all of which will, we're told will make a severe difference to the rest of your life.
We were talking, Dinah, before about doing our exams during the COVID era, which a lot of other young people listening to this might have gone through. And I don't know about you, but I had some kind of staggered assessments. Like instead of doing big end of 2-year exams for GCSEs, we kind of split it into the little mocks, and then the mocks gave us our final grade in the end. So do you think that might be a good tactic to kind of continue with our own experience personally?
Yeah, definitely. I think having those little mocks sounds a bit less stressful. My school decided to go completely full on with exams and wanted to restore their integrity or something like that, and keep us doing full exams for our GCSEs, and that was really, really stressful, especially considering that COVID was a thing at the time. A lot of people were diagnosed with long COVID and things like that, so it was really bad. But I think mini mocks does sound like a good way to go, or something a bit less formal or long, or as many papers as you had to do.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Because in a way, COVID has given us nowhere to go, because I did COVID A-levels, and all of my mates did COVID A-levels. They went to uni and they've all come out exactly the same as the other people did from doing normal exams. Mm-hmm. So in a way, and that's obviously in the middle of a global pandemic. So it's clearly not what the system now will bust, because we had a middle ground and it's worked.
Yeah.
Literally that. And honestly, these exams as well, sometimes I feel like they don't assess a full range of what a person's capable of. It only assesses certain skills like memory, which people seem to bring up a lot. Although memory is important, it shouldn't be the be-all and end-all of a person's academic success and the chances that they get in life through university and sixth form and college and things like that. So honestly, I think that what kind of helped me through the exam season was walking a lot, to be honest. When you've got all the exams all the time, I used to try and get out in the sun, because the one good thing about exam season is that it is in summer, really is May, June, July kind of time. So I try to use the sun to my advantage, because it helps clear your mind when you go out, put a bit of music on, things like that. It boosts serotonin in your body, which obviously improves your mood and helps relieve feelings of stress, things like that. And one good thing I like to throw a bit of science in there. One good thing that I was thinking about is just how exercise and sunlight, they they kind of make you more tired. Because I think a lot of people struggle to sleep with the stress during exam season. So I found that exercise helped me get better sleep. And when I slept better, I tended to remember things better, and my studying seemed to improve a lot more. So I don't know about you guys, if exercise was a big thing as well?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think walking for me as well was so crucial. I used to walk and kind of voice note my friends, just like have a little rant and get it all out. That really helped, because I was one of those people with exams that was like, I can't do anything, I can't live a life, I have to like prioritise exams and make that like my whole life for that period of time. So walking was my only like little bit of release, I guess, from everything else. So I definitely agree with walking. I think that's a really good one.
There is nothing more cathartic than a 3.5 minute voice note to someone, is there? Just saying what you think.
Get it all out, everything out there, yeah. I mean, I used to do the same thing as well. We used to live about an hour away from school. So me and my friend that lived nearby, we used to walk back, and during exam season, during studying, you'd be sat down all day doing all that. As soon as we got on that walk, stuff went down. We talked about everything and anything, and we were having the time of our lives. And honestly, we escaped stress for an hour, because honestly, during exam season, it feels like there's a guilt overriding you that you just can't escape. There's always a deadline over your head. You've always got something to do. And at the age of 15, 16, you're not used to dealing with those things. It's your first time dealing with such stresses. So this is why hopefully this podcast can kind of help you guys listen to it and get a bit of advice. And again, just to bring it back to the kind of coping mechanisms, I feel like another thing that helped me was working by time-based principles.
Okay.
So I remember speaking to my other friends, and they said that they just couldn't escape this stress. It was always over their head, just academia. So the way I kind of dealt with it is, normally I'm very black or white. So if I'm studying, I'd study until the end I've completed something. I've got a checklist to get through. Once that's done, I can rest. But I found what's much more useful now that I'm in university is to schedule it a little bit more. So just to say, I'm going to set 3 hours aside. I'm going to work for 3 hours. Once that 3 hours is done, I'm done for the day. And then you can kind of just break up your day a little bit more. You can kind of plan in other things that excite you a little bit. And it just helps you a lot more than that black and white, not knowing when you're going to stop. It just allows for a lot more balance in your life. So I would definitely recommend that coping mechanism to you guys as well. And, you know, is there any other things that you guys there's help for you before we move on?
Well, I just think, just in case there is a danger of anyone kind of listening to this and like is worried about exams and is really stressed and is feeling the pressure. Maybe they've got pressure from home or from their school. Maybe they're a traditionally high achieving school. I just think that, I mean, I walked out of GCSEs with 5s and 6s. I walked out of A-levels with BCE. I employ 2 people, and in both of those people, I've never looked at their grades. I've spoken to them about their personality. I've spoken to them, and I just think that we're really, really moving into an era, and it will. The education system will catch up eventually. I think it's 20 years behind as it is, but it will catch up eventually. And I just think that we're so past writing on paper. I mean, for example, the non-calculator paper at GCSE. Why does that exist? What situation is anyone ever going to be in life where they will not have access to a calculator and urgently need to work out some ridiculous calculation? It's bonkers.
Do you not use Pythagoras' theorem in everyday life? Is that not a common thing? Or is that just me? Like,
yeah, it's just, but then you have to do it without a calculator, of course.
Oh yeah, true. That's getting quite difficult now.
So I just think like, obviously exams are important, and particularly if you do want to go into something that is academically focused and you want to go to university, then yes, you need to make sure that there still needs to be an element of expectation, but also it's not the be all and end all. And I think that's the most important coping mechanism, is just remembering that there's so many avenues in life, and academic achievement is just one of them.
Like Alfie says, there's so much more in the world than just grades at the minute, and there's so many different avenues that you can go down. A lot of people say the education system, and me personally, I agree, is very outdated. It's very old-fashioned. I mean, originally it came around to basically get people to work. It was to just get common workers who could follow rules and just get a secure job and go away with that. But the world's changed since then. It's not everything's based in factory work. You know, there's so many more opportunities digitally. Like the stuff that you get up to wouldn't have been around necessarily 100 years ago, Alfie, with a lot of travel and things like that. So, you know, there's so many more opportunities that you can have. And like you say, you were talking to your friends before about kind of things that have helped them. And I was kind of doing the same thing last night and getting a bit of advice from them. And a big thing that they said was perspective, like we were saying. Exams do not encompass everything that you are. You are not the 3 grades that you get at the end of your A-levels. They are not the grades that you get at the end of your maths and English papers. That is not exactly who you are. So just believing that you are a successful person, you do have positive traits. No matter what you do, you will have many, many positive traits that aren't assessed in academia. So having that belief in yourself and self-belief will get you through a lot of things in life. And that is not accepted in school, really.
And that I think I think that's the problem, is that I think every school needs a body or someone who can, like, because the school is required, and I don't think there's necessarily a problem with the schooling system. I think there's a problem with the education system. I think there should be a person in each school who can advise students who aren't made for the academic side of things where their traits potentially do lie, because I don't think that really exists.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think so many schools do kind of capitalise on the fact that exams, you are now, a number or a letter, and it's really important that you do have staff members who can actually inspire children outside of that. Like, I had a careers advisor, and she was lovely. Obviously, it was still very academia based. I went to a grammar school somewhere, so they were still very like, yes, you need those grades, you need to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, stuff like that. But she still made me aware of the fact that there's so many other avenues that you can go down, and I think that's what kept me going, because I actually ended up taking a gap year and retaking my A-levels, and that's what kind of made me think, you know what, there's actually more to the world than what a school has put on paper for you.
Literally.
So I think it's definitely remembering you've got other attributes and other personality traits that can get you further. Like, some people are really cut out for interviews, and if you've got that charm about you in an interview, you can actually get further than you could with grades in a paper.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
But it's another problem in the sense that schools are judged on the numbers. That's a wider problem as well. And that's why it's hard to blame the schools, because they get their funding based off of numbers, and that means that students become numbers, which basically then puts everyone in a cycle. And that's why the whole thing needs basically top to bottom reform, and that's why it's so difficult.
Hopefully with the Ofsted reform kind of going on, that should hopefully change and really reduce the pressure on schools. Like, I was actually on placement. I'm training to be a teacher, so I was on placement with some year 6s, and they were practicing for their SATs, and I just thought the pressure is insane on poor little year 6s. It was so insane, and I just thought if the whole kind of rating of schools was just relaxed upon a bit, these year 6s wouldn't have to go through so much stress at the age of 10.
Literally, and so young.
SATs basically give secondary schools an opportunity to immediately judge 11-year-olds.
Yeah.
And that is that for me is SATs' biggest problem, is that they put a number on 11-year-old kids before they've even stepped foot in the door.
Well, the thing is, I've got some personal experience, because some of my family are teachers as well, and I've got a lot of experience being around schools, and the stories that I've heard obviously not directly through them, but some areas have let kids go and push them away from school before their SATs, because they don't believe that they are going to get the grades that will keep the school in a good light.
No way.
Which is outrageous.
For primary school?
Outrageous. Imagine being a 10-year-old child neglected because the school don't believe in you. And then it's ridiculous. And also, like Alfie was saying, that the whole system of school literally depends, since they've introduced these new policies, it literally depends on the grades that the kids get, the better reputation it has, which means they can attract people and be held in a good light and just be a good school. So it's solely focused down to individual kids' grades and how they can maximise each individual child's academic potential. So school just doesn't seem to be as enjoyable as an experience as I've spoke to older people had. Especially in the 90s and noughties, I've kind of spoke to my dad, and he said even being a teacher, he finds it a lot more stressful these days than it was then, because during things like registration, they're putting extra lessons on just for maths and English, when a child should be relaxing, should be enjoying themselves, should be speaking to their friends or getting prepared for the day. They're having to do extra work, and they're just trying to cram as much work as they can in, because that'll keep the school in a good light. So there needs to be some change where we can focus on other things that will benefit that child, rather than even skills like helping them deal with stress. It's just an unwritten rule. It's an unwritten code that you've got to learn for yourself. If we were sat there in school and got told some kind of coping mechanism, some kind of things to help us deal with stress, it would benefit us 10 times as much as it does now, but we just don't learn those things. So maybe just part of the school system does need to change, really, in that context.
And particularly when I was in year 11, I mean, intervention was basically a necessity. So you extend the school day, which means that then I couldn't go and do football or whatever I wanted to because I then had to be working for what, you know, to do one of the 27 exam papers. It's like, do we need 4 English papers? Do we need 3 maths papers?
Very good question. Do we actually?
Do we need 2 literature papers in 2025?
A bunch of poems.
We don't even get the book.
No, exactly.
We don't get the book. It's solely memory.
Do we need to memorise A Christmas Carol in 2025? Probably not. Like, I just think
there needs to be some change.
Definitely.
6 science papers. Really?
Is it 6 or was it 9?
6. It depends on what you
Okay.
did. You could have
I
had
was
so
thinking
much.
of A-levels, yeah.
Yeah.
I did A-level science.
But like you're saying,
Horror.
27
Yeah,
exams in
it's
a month.
ridiculous.
It's literally 1 a day or 2 a day sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't want to think about
I had friends
this.
who did like 3 in a day because
Yeah.
some of them overlapped, and that's just it's not healthy.
And then you're almost made to feel like because then if you have an overlapping exam, then you have to sit in isolation all day because God forbid you go on Twitter and look at a question that came up. Like it's just mental.
By the way, can we just shed a light on that? Because that provided me so much joy during exams. Going on Twitter once you go out in an exam hall and just seeing how many other people stressed over that exact same question.
Definitely.
You knew when you came out that 116 marker, that was the devil.
Yeah.
That was a nightmare. So it was great. All the memes that you used to see, honestly, that was one thing that helped me get me through.
Yeah.
Literally going on. I remember my psychology exam going straight on and I felt so much better straight after, just laughing about it all. But especially during that time as well, I don't know how you guys kind of cope physically. Like, did you sleep or your food, your eating habits kind of change?
Everything changed. I barely slept, I barely ate. Yeah, I think because I can't react well. My body doesn't react well with stress, so I was like, I cannot eat. I physically couldn't stomach food, and I was panicking so much about every single exam. And sleeping as well. I don't know how I got through those exams without sleeping. I feel like I dozed off a couple times in some exams. I had nothing left to write. I was sleeping. But yeah, definitely. I think during exam periods, it's very easy to say, you know, make sure you eat well, eat a balanced diet and sleep. But it's really hard to. Like anyone out there struggling to kind of keep up with eating, sleeping, even personal hygiene and stuff like that, it is really difficult in that time to do so. So don't be hard on yourself. It really is. And everyone will tell you just do it. But it's like, it's not that easy.
It's like, how do you get motivated to do anything when for that month all you see is the next day more writing, the next day more writing, go home reading, go home read, and when that's your cycle as a 15-16-year-old for a month, like when the sun's just come out, when you're at the front end of summer, it's just like
It's like there's no break, really.
and then you wait for 10 ridiculously anxious weeks to open up an envelope.
By the way,
It just has a load of numbers on it.
I'd like to say I got a little bit obsessive, right? I'm going to come clean. I got a little bit obsessive during A-level season. And what I used to do that helped me through is after my A-levels, I would come out, I would flick through the paper at the end of the exam. I would come out, I would write down every single question I could remember, how many marks it was.
Oh gosh, you
I would mark it.
calculated.
I would mark
Oh, no.
how many marks I thought I got. And then I would compare that to the grade boundaries of the last year.
previous year.
And I had this quantifiable number of, okay, I think I'm going to get a B. Okay, I think I'm going to get an A in that. I think that went well. And it kind of relieved that whole stress of like the 10 weeks, although it was so obsessive. Like this was doing crazy things to me. It's what exam season does to people sometimes.
And if that 30 seconds doesn't tell you that exams need to be changed.
Literally, it's crazy. But so, I mean, it kind of helped me. So if you want to give it a go, I would recommend.
I would highly recommend against doing that.
Yeah,
You'll go
yes.
insane.
No, because it's just like, imagine you've calculated that grade, you're like, yep, going to live my summer. You open that envelope that dictates your whole future, and then, bam, you did not get that B.
Yeah.
It's not a
But-
D, in fact. Heartbreaking moment.
That day, like, was you guys finding it really stressful on the day? How did you actually find the day of results day?
Oh, I couldn't sleep. I was a mess.
I think I was just past it.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was. I think genuinely it was. It's such a long build up. I think there's only a certain amount of time that you can like hyperventilate and care for. I think by that point I was just done. I was just like, do you know what? Any number it could be my phone number on there, and I wouldn't care.
That's like that type A, type B thing on TikTok at the moment. Like, you must be a type B in this. It's just like, yeah, but type A me was like, I cannot think. Like, I was just thinking, for GCSEs was a bit more chill because it's like, you know, it's just the sixth form. But A-levels, I was like, this is my whole future. I cannot go to university if this is not the right grade. And then you're just like refreshing your UCAS, you're holding that envelope. I didn't get the best, but my school put like a little sticker on mine as like the people who need some extra support finding what to do next. So I had to go to like this whole other queue, and I was just there, and everyone's in their queues, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm going to uni. I was like, no, open that envelope. And I was like, yeah, my world has come crashing down. I cried and didn't stop. I literally like went the back route out of school, back to my mum's car, and like cried. And I was like, what do I do now? My life's ended. Wow. I'm sitting here, you know, 2 years later thinking that was a bit dramatic. But then at the moment, like in that moment of time, it was not that. I genuinely thought my life was over. Yeah. Genuinely thought I could do nothing with my life. This school already put a sticker on me saying, yep, you're not going anywhere.
I've not heard of that before. That is, wow.
Like, it is really horrible. Like, results day, worst thing. It can be amazing, but just anxiety leading up to it.
It can only ever be like good, because whatever positivity comes out of it, it's not worth the 15 weeks that prerequisite it. Even if you get the best results in the world, like I still don't think that that's worth all the stress that you have to go through before you get that moment.
And I think it all works out in the end as well. Like you look at your parents, or you look at anyone that's older around you, they've all sat through the same experience, and look where they are now. Like they've made it to whatever situation they are in life. Everyone finds a way. Yeah. And you can always, if you don't do as well, resit your exams. There's always scope for that. You can always take other paths. Like you will find a way somewhere. So although it seems like the complete end of everything if you fail on the day, there are many, many ways that you can go through with it after. But
Jeremy Clarkson always brings light to everyone's
every
eyes
year
on an A-level results day, doesn't he?
He loves it, and he's not doing too bad for himself these days, so that's just an example for you guys.
We're definitely on different routes. I think more light needs to be shed on the fact that there's so many different routes. Like where I started off with what I wanted to do, start of year 12, very different to what I'm doing now. And even though my grades weren't the best the first time, or the second time actually, I did mine twice, still managed to get to uni, and I'm still doing something that I actually enjoy. So I think, as much as I hate the saying, rejection is redirection, to some extent, if you do get the best grades and what you wanted, etc., there is an element of, I can now, figure out my own thing in my own way, my own pace, without school kind of barking down at me like, you need to do this, you need to do that, get these grades. You actually now have an opportunity to explore what you might actually be interested in. So.
I think the education system gives you a countdown as well. It gives you a countdown to your 16 to get this, then an 18 to get there, and then 21 to get to the end of uni. And the reality is, once you turn 18, actually, the world is completely yours. Like, it doesn't... You're not limited by any time factors. You're not limited. You don't have to earn a certain amount of money by X amount of time. And the only person who puts that pressure onto young people is the system as a whole.
Definitely.
And this is why I can't stress enough, if you can get out there and do some work experience in something that you enjoy and just see what life is like as a living person, as a professional, whatever you do, just seeing what life's like on the other side of academia in the real world is amazing. Like Dinah, we were saying you took a gap year, I took a gap year as well. It helped me so much just to see what life was like during academia, what life was like outside of academia, and see which bits I would take from either part and take that moving forward. Take me a bit of time out of education, because I really struggled myself in school, and just have a bit of time to relax and kind of judge really where you want to go and what you want to do, really. But again, I missed a lot of school in my personal experience. So I was just wanting to know if you guys missed any exams, missed school during exam season. How did it kind of affect you there?
My problems came after the exams, between exam day and results day. That's where I really, really struggled. But the actual exam period, I just think I just didn't really enjoy eating, but I still tried to crack on. And then that was where my anxiety came from, because I felt really guilty for not doing enough during the period. So I was like, I've completely ruined this, because I actually tried to live a little bit during that exam period, and now I've completely ruined it.
You shouldn't have to feel that guilt. That is horrid. I know what you mean, because I literally was like, I'm not doing anything. If I do anything, I won't pass, I won't do this. And I feel the guilt after. That was the worst decision now I think about it. But I physically couldn't. I was like, I can't actually do anything else. But in terms of missing school, oh my gosh, in year 13, I was like, I can't do this. I was emotionally and mentally just overwhelmed constantly. My school were aware of this, but they weren't the most supportive at the time, because everyone's just thinking about exams and my grades were declining and everything. So it was just a whole mess. I actually remember my school saying, if you don't really get your grades sorted, you need to go, essentially.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't know what to do, because, you know, you've told that to someone who seeks academic validation to the highest degree. I'm not going anywhere. I need to write this. What am I going to do? So I just, in turn, just ended up missing a lot of school. And my attendance went from about 96% to like 70%. And I was just missing days. I'd asked to leave school early and, you know, find a reason and just go, because I just couldn't. And maybe in hindsight that probably affected my results, but I just could not deal with the school environment. Everyone's stressed. Everyone's being told that they need to get A stars, and I was like, I'm not en route for that. What do I do? So it's definitely a period of just a mess in terms of absences at school, and schools don't deal with that very well.
Literally, I mean, no matter how much you do, no matter how much work you do, you're always going to feel like you can do more, no matter how much you do. So just give yourself a little bit of slack here and there. Like, obviously, try and work as hard as you can. I feel like for me, I worked really, really hard. I'd basically, during exam season, I'd stopped going to my lessons in sixth form. I just sat in the library. I had my own checklist. I went, I'm going through this myself. Yeah. I'm going to take this into my own control, and I'm going to do my exams, and I know exactly what I'm going to do. And that kind of helped me get by, just having that kind of thought that, well, I've done everything that I can. Whatever happens now is out of my control. I know that I've put everything into this. So it kind of helps with comparison locks. I know a lot of people struggle with that during exam season. Like I say, it's not a nice place to be. But in terms of missing school for exams, that was a tough time. And again, going back to COVID, just the reactions that everyone had to exams being cancelled, I think that tells you enough about how people feel about exams. Yeah. I mean, if I remember right, on the Wednesday, we got told we were going into lockdown. Big Boris Johnson came down. He said, hey guys, no more school for you, chill out. And then on Friday, he said, right guys, no GCSEs being cancelled. We're going to give you your own stuff. And that feeling on the Friday afternoon when I heard that, I don't think I felt anything like it since. Yeah. Honestly, it was so good. And just messaging all your friends, the way everyone felt about that time was just unbelievable, because you knew that you didn't have to do everything for the next like few months. You didn't have to fully commit yourself. You could actually enjoy life a little bit. Yep. So hopefully you guys can get a bit more of that balance during exam season. But again, we're calling for a little bit of reform for these end of 2-year exams, because why do you have to learn the whole curriculum to be assessed on a third of what you've learned? I don't understand that. Like, you go to a paper, you
don't know what's going to come up.
Yeah.
Literally, that was the great thing about COVID, which I don't know if they might implement now, was we had reduced specifications. So they basically tell us these are what the questions are going to be on. And then you can go off and study these in whatever capacity. It might be a small mark question, it might be a really high mark question, but learn this stuff and you'll be okay. So that was a really good system for us, because that helped us target our revision. Because again, I don't understand why we're learning about things if we're not going to be told about them. We're not going to be marked on them. Like, what's the point?
Which was interesting. I actually decided at the back end of GCSEs that I was going to drop to foundation maths. And there's absolutely no, like, there's, you know, I was in higher maths, and there'll probably be some people listening here who are like really, really struggling to get to the top end of foundation maths. And but level 4 and level 5 is all you need. And I was like, why? I'm never going to go into maths in my life. Why am I going to spend the next 3 months learning about things that I don't need to, when actually I could just compartmentalize my math stuff quite easily, and then foundation maths can still be really challenging, but I just got my 5 and then left it. Like, could I have got a 6 and a 7 if I'd have pushed myself in maths? Probably. Did I need to? Probably not. So
yeah, but it all boils back to the whole kind of image thing that schools need to kind of keep them, you know.
Oh yeah, they hated me.
Funding.
They were like, "Why are you doing this? Why?" I was like, "Don't you want to achieve?" I was like,
but it's not that, like, if you don't need that, it's like, why so much pressure on it, you know? It is a bit annoying. I think it's really unfair in terms of the whole image that schools need to kind of upkeep, that they're putting that on their students, to have to, why did you need to be in higher maths? You know, you didn't need necessarily to have
exactly.
that.
But it's fascinating now, because now they're inviting me back because of what I've done.
Please talk about maths,
what I've done
Alfie.
outside of my academic stuff. And it's like, in my head, I'm a bit like, well, look, I'll come back because I want to inspire the kids. But also, you can't really have it both ways. You can't put pressure on me for 3 years to achieve what you want. And then when I've gone out and done something else, been like, oh, look at this guy, we made it.
Different, bear in mind. It's always when you've done something so far with macadamia that's like, oh, come back. Let's make you look good. No, because when I was in school, what were you doing? But no, it's just the whole image thing. I think that's what really drives me crazy. I remember with my school being a grammar school, which was it was just, we were, for our GCSEs, before we got our actual grades, we were ranked because obviously it was COVID year, so we were ranked because we couldn't give us all 9s, so they ranked us, and that ranking thing was genuinely the worst thing. Like, they genuinely put people who, just everyone who probably should have got 9s in hindsight, like in different ranks in order to actually distribute the grades. And then people put in further maths. I was put in further maths. I had no business in further maths. And I think that's what inspired me to go do A-level maths. And I had no business there either. So it's like this whole delusion of I can do maths and I really couldn't. And obviously, because of the whole kind of upkeep of image, people who actually need help aren't getting supported. And then they're going on to do assessments. And then there's kind of loopholes and gaps there because their knowledge hasn't been kind of up to date because they put in this box of, yes, you can do it because you passed a simple, like, Mr. Frost assessment.
Mr. Frost.
Yeah. You know, like a My Maths assessment.
Maths
and
games.
suddenly, because you've done that, you're great at maths and we need the image. So we're just going to push everyone to do higher maths and verbal maths and all this stuff that they can't actually. And then it impacts your view of yourself and your mental health. And it's just that whole cycle that kind of needs to be broken.
And I think prioritization is a big thing during exam season as well, because like you say, if you know you're not going to do French, why are you putting your all into studying French? I'm all for working hard, but if you know what you want to do, then dial into those things and make sure that you're going to do well in those things, because there's no point in... It's great having 9s across the board in all of your exams, but don't set too much of an unrealistic.
You can only have a couple of careers, can't you? You can't have a career in, biology and IT.
Exactly.
It's quite unlikely.
So just make sure you're not wasting your time, guys, if you can. That's what I would kind of recommend. But again, we were talking about exam season, like that results day. Oh my, it was a place to be, wasn't it? I hate to bring it back to that, but it was a place to be.
I'm getting heart palpitations thinking about it.
But did you guys go on study leave during those times as well, or did you get an extra bit of time off?
We didn't get study leave.
No study leave.
This was we were going to protest, I think, because we were so annoyed. They were like, no, you have to be in every minute of every day. Couldn't go home. They changed it for our A-levels, but for our GCSEs, they were like, yeah, absolutely not. A lot of doctor's appointments in that month for a lot of people, weirdly.
Dentists as well?
Yeah.
Physiotherapist, throw it all in there. That was horrid. Results day, sorry, but just the word just triggers me. Results day, because I did it 3 times because I did my A-levels twice. Each and every single time. But study leave, that's an interesting one, because for GCSEs, we didn't get it. Actually, we got a bit, but for A-levels, they delayed ours, well, my school anyways, and we were just, as you said, doctor's appointments and all sorts galore, illness galore. Everyone was ill suddenly until we finally got on study leave. And I think some people had early exams, only got a week of study leave, and the rest of us got the rest of that time. But that's just so insane, because you're in lessons and teachers aren't necessarily covering what you struggle with, because they're not personalising revision to you. They're doing it as general revision. So having that was very stressful and not helpful in the slightest.
I mean, are there any good things about exam season that we can focus on a little bit? I mean, there obviously are a lot of challenging times, but the great times as well, because when you do have the moment where you get to the end of the day and you get that time to yourself and you get to see your friends at the end of the week, it hits so much different when you know you're
Physics paper 2 after GCSEs. At the end of that exam, it's party time.
It's time to go.
Yeah, for a week, everyone is belated and then everyone's like, oh, now we've got to wait for results. But I do think exams have a place, because I think that, they do, but they are so miles away from where they should be in line with where we are as a society. Anything that requires memory should be open book and should be judged on someone's ability to actually write rather than remember.
Because I feel like we do things to pass the exam technique to pass the test, but we don't deeply learn it.
Well, that says everything, doesn't it? Is that you spend more time on exam technique than on content.
Literally.
And that says it's all about how do you get the marks. Well, to be honest, in science papers, you should get the marks by probably getting the right answer.
Yeah.
That would probably help.
Yeah.
So
why is it a puzzle? You know, why are we now putting, you know, bits of information together from a question to actually answer a question? I do kind of disagree a little bit though with the memory thing. I think to some degree memory is needed.
Yeah.
But I think as we were talking about earlier, we were saying that a mixture would be quite nice. Having a couple questions, couple essays, couple bits of coursework, that would be quite a nice way to go about things. I think for a lot of subjects, you know, it could be applied to every subject, to be honest. I know some subjects are like essay based only and some don't have exams, and that's a bit, you know, there's so much pressure on an essay, and then there's only some that are just the questions only and exam based, and then there's a lot of pressure on exams. So if there was like this nice balance of a spread of different ways of assessment, I think kind of what BTECs do, I'm not too sure about how BTECs, you know, kind of operate, but I think if BTEC kind of ideologies were transferred to A-levels, that might help, or GCSEs as well actually, that would be quite helpful to a lot of people, testing all their different strengths.
Well, yeah, like I say, I feel like it gives people a chance to, what's school for? It's to learn about yourself, it's to become educated, it's so you can go out and take on the world. We should be assessing a range of things. So if we're doing coursework, if we're doing assignments, if we're doing exams, if we're doing vivas, like talking exams, then it lets you know what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what you can get better at, rather than putting everything into one type of assessment, which might benefit others. I mean, I remember, if I can recall right, I did A-level sociology, and it seemed to be at the time, boys tended to do better in end of kind of season exams, and girls tend to do a little bit better in coursework. So why are we then having everyone do full exams if that's benefiting one type of person? Like, surely you should be able to be assessed in all these different types, and then you can go off and learn your things from there. It just makes most sense to me. I don't know about you guys, but that's how I would have benefited it. But yeah, I mean, did you guys spend a lot of your time with friends during that exam season? Were you talking about things like this with them?
I isolated. It was really bad in hindsight, but I isolated. Like, I think for me, because I put so much pressure on exams, and obviously there was external pressure from school, from the career I wanted, from family, not too much, but there's still that level of like, you know, you want to do well in your exams. I just thought, I can't face anyone. I'm scared I'm going to fail. I can't face anyone. I think for me, for A-levels as well, because of the experience I had with school and kind of what my school was feeding into my brain about failing and stuff, I was like, yeah, I'm too scared to face anyone. I know everyone else is going to do really well, and I'm going to be here like failing, not going to uni, crying my eyes out every night. So I just isolated. I couldn't face the music. So I just thought, yeah, I'm going to stay by myself and like cram and learn as much as possible and try my best. Also mentally, I just couldn't cope with it, because some people obviously have a great reaction to exams. Some people love it. Some people find it thrilling. And I wasn't one of those people. I hated every moment. I just thought, I can't look at someone who can do that, and I'm crippling inside. I can't. So I just isolated. It's not the best, but obviously if you have a couple friends, at least you can, you know, kind of trust and rely on, or your mum or your dad, or, you know, anyone who's in your life that you can kind of just talk to. That's really important, rather than holding it all inside and doing what I did, because it does drive you to things you don't want to be driven to. Definitely. Such
as writing down every mark from your exam ever. Please, yeah, that on hindsight, it might not be great for you.
No.
But yeah, I mean, having that support network around you is like really, really important. Just having people that even take your mind off things. So just processing the things that are going on at the time, talking about exams like you come out of the exam hall. Some people like talking about how certain questions went, how their exam went overall. Some people just want to leave the hall and just go home. Whatever works for you, don't feel guilty for either of it. If it works for you, just go with the flow and do that.
Definitely.
If it benefits you the most.
Yeah.
So, like you say, you were getting some kind of pressure from your family. Was that quite a big thing over the time, or during exam season?
Good one. My family weren't too, like, my mum's, I live with my mum, but she's not the most like, you need to do well, you need to be amazing. She's been very kind of chill. But I think for me growing up, because I've always got put down as a high achiever, blah, blah, blah. I was very academically driven.
Gifted and talented, as they say in school.
But I think that's a curse. It labels like such a curse, because it has you think you need to be a certain level of things and get certain grades, all the time, and then when you don't, it's like identity crisis. And that was me during my A-levels, because I just wasn't getting along with what I picked, and I wasn't able to kind of do exams as well as I was able to previously. And then identity crisis, I didn't know what I was doing with myself anymore. But my mum was never like she didn't pressure me, nor did my dad. But there's still that kind of, for me, I don't know if it's like, I don't want to say it's an ethnic thing, but I think for me, because it was just a bit of, I know where my parents were raised and where they came from, kind of being here and having all the opportunities I have in the UK, being born here and stuff, I need to kind of make them proud by doing so-and-so. So many ethnic parents, some of my family friends, for example, their parents are very like, you need to get these grades and be a doctor. I don't want to hear it if you're not a doctor.
It's uni or bust. Like, it is absolutely uni or bust.
It really is. And I think we need to steer away from that. Like, I was quite thankful when I was looking at other opportunities and my parents were like, yeah, go ahead, you know. If I didn't have that, I would just have sat home and cried, because what do you do next? Like, there's nothing else to do. It's just, if it's not uni, then it's... But yeah, no, I think your family can definitely influence that. So I'm quite happy that I come from a family that aren't too, like, you need to go to uni. But some people who do have that, it's very difficult, but you have to just remember, like, it's you living your life. You're the main passenger in your life. So if you want to do something, go ahead and do it, try it out. You might just, you might get a couple arguments here and there, but it is your life at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Good advice. And were you similar during that time, Alfie?
To be fair, I was really lucky. All the pressure came from kind of myself. I mean, again, like there's a certain traditional way that people, that certain generations see success, and that is through academic achievement. But thankfully, I didn't feel a massive amount of pressure externally from that. It just comes internally, because it's what you read, it's what you see, it's what you hear at school. It's and yeah, I just think, I didn't know what I know now about the world back then. And if I did, I would have cared probably even less, because I'd have just tried to enjoy and embrace the kind of fact that I got basically penned in with my friends every day, which these days I dream of. Literally, yeah. That if I could spend 9 till 3 with my friends every day and have no other responsibilities, it'd be fantastic. But yeah, you don't know what you know as an adult, as a kid, and that's just unfortunate.
Yeah,
exactly. You just got to give it your best shot, really. Just work as hard as you can, and then whatever comes of it, you've given it your all. You can enjoy yourself, and don't forget to just take time out to enjoy yourself during that time, during school, because like you say, who knows how much more time you're going to be surrounded by your friends and have all that time spent with them, especially us leaving school. I look back at those days with a lot of fond memories. So just savor it once you're in the moment. And I know you're in exam season, so like we say, work hard, but just make sure you're loving your life, you're living your life, and you're spending time with your friends. That's what I would definitely say. So just to sum it all up, guys, have you got one kind of last message or practical bit of advice that you'd give to anyone sitting exams now or having upcoming exams?
I just say, just remember those grades do not define you. Like, they really do not. It feels like it does. I promise you, it really does. In that moment, it's like, whoa, this is me. Everything I've worked for actually ends up as, 3 little letters or the 8 letters or numbers you receive. But you're really not. There's so much more to people than what meets the eye. And, hopefully you do meet people who actually see that and know that, yes, it's not just grades that define you. A lot of opportunities obviously are governed by grades, but a lot more are also governed by your personality and your other attributes. So, I started off wanting to be a doctor, and now I'm teacher training, and that was a whole journey in itself. But the grades that I received didn't define me in that, and I could actually get past that, and my personality and other attributes have actually helped me get further in that sense. So yeah, the grades do not define you, even though everything else in society will tell you that they do.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's basically echoing the same thing, but every kind of successful person that I've ever met hasn't generated their success from numbers on a piece of paper. They've interacted with the right people, they've networked with the right people, and they've ultimately been brought up by a team of people behind them that have personality and that have charisma, and that's where the real personalities lie, is in that side of life. Exams are important because they can get you to your next step, and they can propel you on to academic success, particularly if you want to go into something that is objectively needed, of course. But if you're not sure where you want to go, the chances are you don't want to go down an academic route anyway, and that's absolutely fine. There's so many ways through life these days.
Of course. And like I say, just echoing your guys' points, I would definitely say just try and do the best you can, whatever capacity that is. And it always works out in the end. You always find your way. You have your fun. You know, you're always going to find something that suits you in the end. It just might take you a little bit more time. And just try not to limit your opportunities. School, education is just a place to expand your opportunities, to meet people, to learn things about life, and just try and make the most of that while you can. Just give yourself as many opportunities as you can, and then see where you go from there. So that's definitely what we'd say. But I think that's a nice place to end the podcast. So thank you very much for your guys' time today. And hopefully that's given you guys listening some nice advice and a boost of confidence for exam season. So best of luck to you all.
Good luck.
Good luck.